Some of you may know this story from the Talmud. One day, Honi went walking and came upon an old man planting a carob tree. "How long until this tree bears fruit?" Honi inquired. 70 years, the man answered. Whereupon Honi asks, "Do you believe you will live to see it?" The man replied, "As my ancestors planted for me, so I plant for my children." You may not know that the Quran offers its own similar lesson. In a beautiful passage, Muhammad teaches that even if the world is coming to an end tomorrow, each of us must plant a seed today. And if someone asks us, "Why are you planting a seed when the world is coming to an end?" we are to answer, because there must always be hope. Dear friends, I am truly honored to welcome back to the Bima tonight planters of the seeds of hope, members of an organization from whom we've heard before, the Parent Circle Families Forum, a joint Israeli and Palestinian organization made up of more than 700 bereaved families. Their common bond is that they have lost a close family member to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But instead of choosing hate, they have chosen a path of reconciliation. They sponsor a summer camp that brings Israeli and Palestinian youth together, a joint Memorial Day ceremony every spring. And when they are not bringing healing and hope to those living in the region, they are traveling around the world to spread the message to the rest of us and how we need it. The news from the Middle East has for too long painted a stark picture of perpetual violence, and October 7th has made the goal of peace feel like an even more distant dream. To discuss the power of holding on to our humanity during this incredibly difficult time, the power of their shared pain, and the impact of October 7th on peace building and for an Israeli and Palestinian future together. We're joined by Robi Damlin, bereaved Israeli mother and organizational director whose son was killed by a Palestinian sniper in 2002. Layla Al-Sheikh, bereaved Palestinian mother whose 6-month-old son died after she was prevented by Israeli soldiers from getting to the hospital. Yonatan Zeigen, bereaved Israeli son whose mother, renowned peace activist Vivian Silver, was killed on October 7th. And Arab Aramin, bereaved Palestinian brother whose sister was killed when she was only 10 years old. All of them are planters of the seeds of hope. Please join me in welcoming them to the Bima.
Is everybody in place? Shabbat Shalom. I'm so grateful to you all for coming on a Friday night to listen. Since the 7th of October, my reaction was very similar to when my son David was killed. I had this drive that I have to change the world overnight. This is my first time in America because of the polarization, because I think our message is international, because everybody has become a world expert on the Middle East, and because you are importing our conflict into your country and creating hatred between Jews and Muslims. And very much I wanted to understand why. It started with understanding why the man who killed my son did it. How can people be driven to the point where they will kill, where they will commit barbaric acts of violence? Perhaps if you think You know, when I learned that the man who killed David had seen his uncle violently killed when he was a small child, and that he lost 2 further uncles in the second uprising, Intifada, maybe it was a sense of revenge. And then I think about a kid that grew up in Gaza, and every 2 years there's a war. And he has no shelter, and he has nowhere to run, and he watches his mother running away, also with nowhere to run. And he has no freedom of movement and no hope. So what kind of adult grows up with that as a background? And then you have the kids on the kibbutzim who thought they were invincible, right? They lived in this beautiful place. They had rockets, that's true, but they also had shelters. And then came the 7th of October, and they were no longer invincible. And then I think about the children in Sderot and Ashkelon and Ashdod and the towns surrounding Gaza. And they've been exposed to rockets, and believe you me, rockets are very scary. I know because there were many outside of my house from October the 7th, later on. And these kids are still wetting their beds at the age of 12. So what kind of adults are they going to be? And so I begin to understand how things happen. And what happened to the Israeli army on the 7th of October? They were humiliated. And from humiliation comes revenge. And they couldn't go and save all the hostages. And so there is this sense of anger, and we have to deal with it. And there are also the most remarkable people that have come out of October the 7th. You will meet one of them very soon. And I can tell you that that brings me hope. We came here because we have created a program, and we'll talk about that later. But I want you to know, and we're getting very close to Rosh Hashanah, that it is possible to find peace. And that's what we have to look for. And we have to support. You may talk to the students in all the universities, which we are going to be doing on this trip. And you might say to them, wow, this is the first time that Palestine has been on the map for so many years. Why not support all the NGOs in Israel and Palestine that are working together to end the war? Wouldn't that make a difference in the life of Laila and myself? Put your fantastic energy into supporting people that are working on the ground. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom v'Salamu Alaikum. I am a Muslim guy and a Palestinian guy who was born under occupation 30 years ago. And today I'm 30 years old. I came here to share my story with you. And I hope my story will change a lot of reality, which is we have in it today, with a lot of pain and losing kids and people. On the 17th of October, 2007, I lost my sister Abir. An Israeli soldier shot and killed her in front of her school for no reason. My sister, she was the third child in the house. As I said, she was 10 years old, and I was in that time 13 years old. And in that time especially, I wasn't know there is a human being the other side. I never met an Israeli as a human being until that age. All the Israelis that I have met, only the soldiers who standing on the checkpoint, searching me, searching my people, searching my family. And also because of the big walls between Palestinians and Israelis. In that time, I wanted to take revenge to my sister's blood by killing the Israelis who killed my sister. And after a long journey with pain and a lot of thoughts and black nights, I could understand that behind every Palestinian and Israeli there is a human being. And our problem that we don't know each other as a human being. We don't talk to each other and we don't want to talk to each other. As a Palestinian who lived under occupation for 30 years, I'm coming here today with my pain, with my story, with my face, to ask you for help for my nation, for my people, Palestinians and Israelis. If you will be standing or pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, you won't help us and help your people. You have to be pro-peace and justice and humanity for everyone. And I am, as a Palestinian, I'm saying from the river to the sea, everyone should be free. And we all have to have peace. And what I'm doing here today, to change tomorrow for my son. I don't want to lose a kid like how my father did. And I don't want my kid to lose a sister or brother like how I did. And the only way we can fix our problem and, I don't know, got to some point or solution, there is one option only, to talk to each other. And then we will know each other. And then we will have the option to keep killing each other, or there is a different way. Thank you so much.
That's Jonathan.
Hello, my name is Jonathan. My mother, Vivian Silver, didn't survive the massacre in Kibbutz Be'eri on October 7th. But before that, she did me the service of raising me in a very politically, oh, I lost the word in English. Knowledgeable home. And that's the way I grew up and fashioned my own convictions. And but as things go, when my kids were born, I lost touch with trying to be invested in change. And I just lived my life. I did my master's in social work. I went to work, back home, read stories for my kids, and didn't think about the occupation. I tried to hold on to this fantasy that we can lead a normal life in a place that life isn't sustainable. And then October 7th happened. And for me, it was an awakening moment, because I spent all the morning with my mother on the phone, and it was an extremely helpless experience, trying to figure out what's going on with my loved one, and actually saying goodbye to her while she is being murdered. And after that experience, I sat with myself quietly and thought, how can I heal myself? How can I contribute to the healing process of our peoples? It was clear to me that violence only generates more violence, and that we shouldn't go into this atrocious war that sadly, tragically, has been going on for a year now, which is insane in my mind, because there's no progress to it. There's just more pain and more death, and we're just getting further from the only possibility for sustainable life in the region, which is a shared future. Because 7 million Jews are not going to disappear, and 7 million Palestinians are not going to disappear. So the only option for us is to share the land, the two peoples. So it got me, I had the sense of urgency and the sense of responsibility to utilize my pain and to be invested in trying to shape this shared future that I so clearly believe that is possible. I quit my job, I joined organizations like the Parent Circle. I go all over the world to speak to public officials in order to pressure the international community as well as internally in Israel and Palestine to try and tell a new story. Not a story of extermination, dehumanization, but a story that strips us down to our humanity. That if me and Arab here can hold hands and try to work for a better future, for a future that our kids can know each other. Lost my train of thought. Thank you.
Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Assalamu alaikum. As a Palestinian born outside Palestine, I felt that so happy to return back and to live in Palestine in 1999. And I've been so happy after having 2 children, a boy and a girl. But that happiness was ended 11th of April 2002, 4 o'clock in the morning when my son, Qusay, 6-month-old, woke up in very critical condition because at that night the Israeli soldiers came to my village and they threw tear gas. And even when we tried to take him to a hospital, the soldiers prevented us for more than 4 hours. At the end of that day, he died. The first thing that I think about that, I will never ever take revenge, because revenge will never bring my son back, and it will bring another innocent people to this cycle of violence, and I will never ever let anyone be at the same place that I am in. After 16 years, I met people from the Parent Circle, and that was the first time I met Israeli bereaved parents and families. For the first time, I felt that we shared the same pain, we shared the same tears, even if we had different circumstances, but we're still human. And nothing worse than losing a child or a family member, and no one could understand that pain unless someone be in the same situation. From that day, I decided to be a member in the forum, started to give lectures inside Israel, Palestine, travel around the world to spread the message of peace and reconciliation. And I thought, that's it. But life gave me another test. When I met in a meeting an Israeli man that I know like 3 years ago, and he's a friend of mine, but that was the first time I listened to his story. And then he mentioned that he was a high officer in the army, and he served in my area, and he prevented a Palestinian car which have sick children from going to a hospital. Then it became really so hard. I didn't know what to say, I didn't know what to do. Then I start to cry, and both of us go outside the room and start to talk. And then he mentioned that after time, his son becomes sick, and when he tried to take him to a hospital, the guard stopped him because he wanted to ask him a few questions, and he was in a hurry. And then he said to me, then just I realized what I did to the Palestinian. He quit from the army, he jailed because of that, because he refused to be in the army again. And he established another organization with other Palestinian fighters to end the occupation, to start to work underground, to end the conflict. Then I looked at him and said, Lakhin, this is so hard for me to listen to you. But at the same time, I want to thank you because you've been so honest and have that courage to speak in front of me. And because of that, I will forgive you. Then I realized this is the real reconciliation. It's so easy to speak about love, about peace, about reconciliation, but sometimes we ask ourselves, if we really meant every word we say or we meant everything we did. And that day, I believed that this is the right thing that I did in my whole life, and that even gave me a power in these dark days to complete, because we believe that every soul is so precious, and God created us to love and to live, not to kill each other without no mercy. Thank you so much.